Hi, welcome to the Nurture Nature Show. I am the Reverend Dr. Laura Kim Joyner of One Earth Conservation and Ministry. I serve as wildlife veterinarian and Unitarian Universalist minister. During our time together, we will have a chance to nurture ourselves so that we can nurture all of nature. Welcome into this community of hope and nourishment and solidarity with all of life. Welcome again. Today's theme is multispecies intelligence. What is that? Well, it's basically just knowing about others, of other species. And I believe that by knowing more of others, we can know more about how beautiful this world is. And we can take clearer and more efficient steps to take care of ourselves and the whole planet. I so wish that for you and for the world. And so I'm glad you're with us today so that you can be nurtured and in turn can nurture life on this planet. While I'm talking, I invite you to consider this question. How would your life be different and lives of others if you knew more of them and could connect to them? How would knowing of them and connecting to nature change your life for the better and others? And we sure do need to think about changing the life and caring for others. We're bombarded on the news with how climate change is ruining the planet, poverty, inequality, loss of biodiversity and extinction. It's overwhelming. As a matter of fact, the science even tells us that people, when they're overwhelmed, get anxious, and they withdraw, and they have fear, and they don't want to take care of the mess of the planet that we're in. And I believe that we do want to take care of the mess. But there's a fundamental flaw in the way we see the world that I believe that keeps us from doing this. And that's because we are living under the story of harm and separation. It's a story that says humans are basically bad. We can't clean up this mess. I believe that there's another story. And this is the story of beauty and interconnection and worth. That is this kind of reality. So let's go through and talk about what this reality check would look like to move us away from the story of harm and separation. And first it is that all individuals of all species have inherent worth and dignity. All bodies matter. It also means that all individuals are connected to each other in beauty and in worth. And it means that as we're connected in beauty and worth, we're also connected in harm and well-being. And so what happens to others matters to all of us. And this is a kind of interbeing in the web of life, and it makes us so powerful, but also so very vulnerable, because what harms another also harms us. But if we can hold this reality together, I believe it gives us great chance to improve upon our world, because we are a plastic species, which just means we can change. We can be more effective as nurturers and as naturers. And this is a hard, lifetime, vibrant, and rewarding work. So what does it mean to be a nurturer and a nature? In the next slide, I show what this looks like. And it's really very basic. A nurturer is one who nurtures any aspect of the biotic community, whether it's a flower or a butterfly or yourself. And a naturer is just one who cherishes and seeks to understand the nature and to be nourished by it. So becoming a nurturer in nature, how is it that we do this? How is there a practice? Don't we already do this anyway? But there's an intentional practice that we can do. And to become nurturers and naturers, it's to use the 5 intelligences. And this is a program that's brought on by One Earth Conservation in our Nurture Nature program. And there are many intelligences, but these are the 5 that we're working with. The first 2 are emotional intelligence and social intelligence. And I covered that somewhat in episode number 5 on compassionate communication. And it's just training ourselves to be in beauty and to be with the other in beauty. And today we're going to be talking about multi-species intelligence. And some of the ways that we practice that is to actually be the other. So, formal definition of multi-species intelligence. Well, it's just really the ability or desiring to understand another species, their behavior, motivations. What are they thinking and feeling? What's going on with their relationships with the other habitats? And how can that understanding help us help them? And that's what multi-species intelligence is. And I believe that it can help us in so many ways, such as we show in the next slide about multi-species intelligence. By trying to understand others, we understand ourselves. Of how, yes, we are modern humans, but we are connected to all of life. Our DNA we share concretely with Neanderthal, and before that, going back through the great ape line to chimpanzees and small mammals, back to fish and to amoeba, we all carry the DNA that this earth helped construct. But we are more than just automons of DNA packets. Who we are is much more than this. We share with life the ability and the desire to move towards satisfaction and away from harm. And in our level of species, we have very concrete emotions, mad, glad, sad, and afraid, that help us move towards something that is good for us or to run away, such as we see these people running away from the bear. And we shared that with all of life. All of life wants to move towards satisfaction and away from harm. And it helps us know what we need because we have emotions, or as the next slide shows, we have an interiority or a subjective sense, even down to the one cell level. We are being motivated and judging the environment beyond our DNA to move towards satisfaction and away from harm. And knowing that how we're connected and moving in the same way towards and away from harm, it connects us to the whole, beautiful whole. We are part of life and part of everyone else. Now there's a challenge with this of knowing who we are, is that, as the next slide shows, that we have been hardwired to react quickly to harm. And so we have very much within our DNA a tract that shows competition and wanting to move away from our own kind. But then we also have very quickly to help satisfy our needs, collaboration and reciprocity. And both of these are just ready to go, they're primed, and we have a choice. The story of harm and separation pushes competition, but there is another story of cooperation and beauty and worth and interdependence. And this is what we must work on, and this is what multi-species intelligence does for us, is to work on this. And we must be ever vigilant for trying to wire our brain to be less of this and more of the other. For example, one of the things that we really want to be on the lookout for, as we show in the next slide, is two errors that humans are really prone to. And we're prone to this because of the story of harm and separation we all grew up with, and also because, well, frankly, from bad science. So let me explain the two errors. The first one is anthropomorphism. Maybe you've heard of that before. That is where we interpret what another species is doing in terms of humans. They're just like us. They're exactly like us. They have the same emotions, the same motivations. And anthropomorphism is good in many ways because they are a lot like us. But we can take it too far and forget that they are individuals. And then the other one, the other end of this is anthropocentrism, which says we are nothing like them. We are human and they are animal, and there's nothing in between. And so we don't feel that they can do anything like us. And let me tell you a story about how that can be harmful. I am a veterinarian, and when I went to veterinary school in the 1980s, there were only 3 articles at that time on how animals suffer pain, journal articles. So when I was being trained in surgery, and a dog was howling after an orthopedic procedure and no pain meds were given, I was told, oh, the dog's not feeling pain, it's just a reaction to the anesthetic. That is the danger of saying they're nothing like us. And so now we have lots of articles on pain medication, and we do give them to our animals. So these two things we want to be on the lookout for because it has tripped us up in the past. such as what the next slide shows here. Cognitive ethology. This is a relatively new science that helps us ask the question, what are animals thinking and feeling? Before, we didn't think they were thinking or feeling anything. They were just automatons of DNA, like we sometimes thought about ourselves. And it turns out there's a complex repertoire of behavior, not only in a species, but within individuals within the species. And our research is getting better and better at understanding what's going on in animals, such as in this picture here. It shows, we'll go back to the previous slide, of the dogs, or if you could just, there we go, is that we've just in the last couple of years have realized that dogs, when the tail wags more to the right side, they're moving towards satisfaction, and it's a positive approach. And when it's a little bit more to the left, it's an avoidance. So we're learning to study the animals we live with. Instead of just saying a wagging tail always means they're happy, well, we're actually could be fine-tune this. And this is what cognitive ethology does. It helps us understand what's going on in the animals around with us. So now we'll go on to the loris, which is a South Asian primate that's being used an awful lot in the pet trade. It's a wild animal. And so here's a picture, and there's a YouTube video on this. You can Google it and watch this video in action, where the wild primate is being stroked on the side. Tickled is what it looks like, and the animal's got her hands up. So that looks like maybe the animal is enjoying it, stretching and enjoying being tickled like a human might, right? Well, it turns out that's a wrong perception, because this is actually a toxic venomous mammal. It's one of the few that we have, and they have toxic glands on their elbows. So when they are afraid, this is a defense position, so they can accumulate the toxins in their glands here and then spread it over their body or put it in their mouth so they can bite somebody that's scaring them. So this is, I'm scared, go away. And so it's not tickling, but it's torture. So we have to understand what's going on in other animals to avoid the two errors of saying they're nothing like us and they're too much like us. And how can we use this? Well, we can use this understanding to undo the bad science of the past. So here is a brain, and it's depicting, maybe you've heard of it, the reptile brain, which doesn't know anything or have any emotions, and then the early mammal brain, it's got a limbic system and it's beginning to have emotions, and then the primates came along and got smart with their cortex, and then the really smart social animals had a frontal cortex, and this was known as the triune brain, that reptiles didn't have what came later in evolution. So let me just tell you now, this is a mistake. It's still in the literature, but we're slowly undoing it. There's no such thing as a triune brain or a reptile brain. What we have found out is that birds, fish, reptiles, even going back to the dinosaurs, looking at their fossilized brain cavities, that they had limbic systems, which is the emotional system, and also had cortex, that they were thinking beings. And so many brain comparative anatomists, people will say all vertebrates have the basic brain tissue, and we can't say that only humans have this, because other animals have it well too. And this mistake was most glaringly made with birds in our understanding of the avian brain. So here's a picture of the avian brain. And maybe you have heard the term bird brain. That means that birds are dumb, right? Well, we made a mistake. See, we called them dumb because they didn't have cortex in their brain. They had pretty big brains for their body size, but they didn't have the cortex, so we thought they were stupid. But turns out we got it wrong. There's such a thing as convergent evolution, and what birds did is they used a different part of their brain tissue to be the cognitive function, and it's called the nidopallium, and they have a lot of it for their body size. So it turns out they're really smart. And so after that paper came out in 2005, all this research has been done about how smart birds are and what's going on with them. They use tools, they do this, and they do that. And it's not just birds, but I'm using birds as the example of how we got it wrong and how we're learning. Such as one thing about birds is they pass, as the next slide shows, the self-recognition mirror test. This is a magpie, and it's looking in a mirror and it goes, oh, I've got something on me, something on me. So they know who they are. And they've also found this true in great apes and orcas and dolphins, and even ants know who they are as individuals. And animals of all kinds feel quite complex emotions, such as this story about a group of magpies who one of their friends died, was hit on the side of the road, and a motorist passed by and saw that these magpies were laying grass and dried flowers on top of the bird who had died, as if in mourning. And there are countless stories of animals that have been in mourning and have quit eating and have become sad and depressed after one of their mates or one in their flock has died. So they do feel, and they feel the whole range like we do, this whole long list. Like, go ahead and guess. What's that human feeling, right? Well, disgust. Have you ever seen a cat maybe do disgust, or a dog? And what's this dog feeling? Ready to go for a walk, anticipation. So they feel. So why do we want to use cognitive knowledge to try to guess what they're feeling? Because what they're feeling tells us what they need. And we're getting better at understanding what they need. They need what we need. They need nutrition, they need a good environment, they need health free from disease, they need to be able to play out all the behavior that evolution led them to do, and their mental state, their interior state of satisfaction or happiness and connection. And this is a new welfare model, the 5 domain, and it's helping us say, this is what they're thinking and feeling, and this is what they need. So I want to invite you to grow your multi-species intelligence to know what animals are thinking and feeling. And one way we can do this, as it shows in the next slide, that it helps us understand how harmful behavior connects us to all of life. We're not alone in doing harmful behavior. Like these otters, these sea otters, really great, cuddly and cute. Well, it turns out that 10% of the female otters die during forced copulation. We humans would call that rape. Otters also kill baby seals for forced copulation, and it's really a fairly aggressive group of animals. And it's not just the otters, it's all over the animal kingdom, such as our penguins. Our penguins are much like the otters, that males have been found having forced copulation with injured females, with chicks, and with corpses. And I don't want to be pointing out how bad other animals are. What I'm trying to say is we're connected to them. That maybe we get beyond the ideas of good and bad and just say we have needs we move towards and away from satisfaction. And one way that we do this is to collaborate with others. We have a remarkable ability of being connected to others in beneficial behavior. There's a long list and lots of studies about this, such as mice showing empathy in altruism. And so we are also connected with them. And like them, we have some plasticity in our behavior to choose or to act differently, such as in the remarkable science that's coming out with trans-species relationships, such as in this next slide that shows a snake that befriended a hamster. So here we're finding that prey and predator can make choices. We, as both prey and predator, can make choices and have plasticity to take care of others, especially if we know how we can choose. And we can grow our ability in this multi-species relationships. And one way is through a multi-species practice. And so I would invite you to just go out and pretend that you're another animal, such as in this next slide that shows how to do that or how to think about that, is that we want to grow our empathy when in a multi-species practice. And it means knowing in our body what's going on for someone else, cognitive ethology. And if we can empathize with another animal, the studies show that we're able to do greater giving and caring for them. Such as in one study where the researcher asked the students to be a bird for 15 minutes. And those that thought that they were a bird for 15 minutes increased their empathy scores and were also able to care for nature better. So empathy is good. And the way we do that is through a multi-species practice to grow it. Because no matter how much empathy you have for animals now or were born with, all of us can move further along. And so you can put it on pause and study this or go to our website and look at the materials. But basically it says take time out to pretend that you are another animal. And so I have an example of that in the next video, which is a tortoise meditation where I show you how to do this, and also I reflect upon what another being could be thinking and feeling. So I imagine we
turtle meditation could go. A tortoise meditation is to place yourself into the mind and the feelings, the body of the other animal. Imagine being a tortoise. We don't know what they're thinking or feeling. We don't even really know what we're thinking or feeling. But imagine what her body wants. What is she thinking? What are her feelings and her needs? And by taking the time to be still and be the turtle, it activates parts of our brains and our hearts that can put ourselves into the place of other animals, other beings. And in so doing, we may make wiser choices to care for them. What is she feeling and needing? Security, a clean home, a safe home with a large enough burrow. Maybe for me to be gone. Maybe I'm company for her. Maybe I'm diversion. Maybe she wants some stimulation in her life. Maybe she's thinking about it's going to be cold. Maybe she's hungry, although there's plenty of grass and food here. Maybe she's got some aches and pains. She is an older tortoise after all. Maybe she's at ease and at one with the world, just flowing with what must be done in the work before her. I don't know about you all, but I think I'm going to go to bed tonight having tortoise dreams. I'm going to imagine cleaning out the clutter of my own mind, clearing the way for easy connection between me and other animals, with the humans in my life as well. To take the time to move slow, to imagine that I am turtle, I am human, I am grass, I am sand, I am ant. And let this be my prayer today, a tortoise prayer. Blessed are you. Blessed are we. Blessed are all beings. May we act in a way so that these blessings may multiply upon this earth. Amen.
So that multi-species practice that I showed you in that video, I believe it helps us know others and helps us know this beautiful world. And it can help us rise up to meet the challenges of the day. And there are so many challenges, but by knowing others and knowing of this world, we can nurture ourselves so we can take care of the other beings. We can dare to rise. And so to show that hope and possibility, I have another music video that we'll end the show with called Dare to Rise. But before we show that video, a few more points on multi-species intelligence. If you'd like to go deeper into that practice, following the music video are some suggested actions and reflection questions. Also, I want to invite you to One Earth Conservation's Nurture Nature program. We have 3 live webinars at the end of March 2016. And there's information on how to register and connect. And you can go deeper into this practices of the 5 intelligences. So before we play the video, let me say goodbye and thank you for your participation today, because we can only dare to rise together.
The sun, she rises over all creation, large and small, each and all, each day. And when she rises over all creation, large and small, each and all, we hear her say that we are called to rise the stirrings of all life. Right here in this world we call home, sacred life all around. What is our place here among all creation, where we are all gifted with this place? What do we say here among all creation, with our deeds and with our ways? Do we dare to rise? Do we dare to see the widening ring of everything, the widening ring of everything we claim, pushing small lives away, of everything it takes for us to live this way, of the lives our hunger claims, for us to live this way. Do we dare to rise and feel all life? Do we dare to rise and see all life? Do we dare to rise? 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 Do we dare to truly feel? Do we dare to see? See the way. See the way. Dare to change. Dare to change. See the way. See the way that the sun she rises over all creation, large and small, each and all, each day. The sun she rises over all creation, large and small,